All right, Dalton, another conference preview we're doing is the ACC. So what we're going to do is predict our ACC Offensive Player of the Year, ACC Defensive Player of the Year, ACC Coach of the Year, the sleeper team in the ACC who is making the ACC Championship game and winning the ACC title game, and how many teams does the Atlantic Coast Conference send to the 12-team college football playoff? Let's start off with our Offensive Player of the Year. Dalton, who are you going with?
I'm taking one of the best running backs in the country, fresh off a 1,500-yard season. That's Amarion Hampton from North Carolina. Led the nation in yards after contact. And now Drake May is gone, and it's likely to be Max Johnson in there as their starter. North Carolina is going to run the ball a lot, and this guy's an absolute beast. He's big. He's fast. He runs angry. You know, their head coach, Mac Brown, told us that in practice, his players hate tackling him and opposing players hate tackling him, and I don't blame him one bit. He's maybe the best back in the country by the end of the year. He's at least one of the guys in contention for it, but I think he's the best offensive player in the ACC.
I'm with it, man. I also have Amarion Hampton winning it. He led the nation last year with 1,072 yards after contact. Again, 1,072 rushing yards is a great year for any running back, but he had 1,072 yards after contact. Mentioned over 1,500 yards as well. And the big thing about that is that was on a team with Drake May. Right? That was on a team with a top 3 pick at quarterback, and yet he still posted those numbers. Like, I think there's a great chance he could be a guy that competes for the Heisman Trophy next year. One of only 3 running backs in the country with over 1,000 yards after contact. The other 2 were Ali Gordon and Kamani Vidal from Troy, right? So, Amarion Hampton, man, is an absolute stud. He is such a hard player to tackle in space, and yeah, I think he is going to have a massive year, maybe even a better year than he had last year. And last year he had 1,500 rushing yards, right? So that's a scary, scary thought for opposing defenses. What about Defensive Player of the Year, Dalton? Who are you going with for the ACC Defensive Player of the Year?
This was a tough one, and I think that the theme in the ACC is there's a lot of really good defensive linemen, but I went with one from Louisville, and that's Ashton Gelati. He's an edge player, but he plays all over the line of scrimmage. He's a spectacular run defender. He racks up pressure. He plays a million different positions on their line. He can play anywhere. And at over 270 pounds, he's a terrific athlete, man. He can chase down quarterbacks sideline to sideline. He's really, really strong, especially in the run game. I think Ashton Gelati just does everything for Louisville. He's the Cardinals' best player on defense. He's the reason their defense is going to continue to succeed while they figure out their quarterback situation. I'm taking Gelati out of Louisville.
I'm actually doubling up on North Carolina here. I'm going with Kamon Rucker, the edge defender out of Carolina. He has been the most valuable Power 5 edge over the last 2 years, according to our wins above average metric. Leads all Power 5 edge defenders with 96 pressures over the last 2 years. And his 42 run defense stops are tied for second among Power 5 edge defenders as well. So he's a great pass rusher, great run defender. He's been an outstanding player over the last 2 years for North Carolina. I think he's going to continue that right now. I did really much debate him and Ashton Gelati, but I have the slight edge to Rucker in my rankings for edge defenders, so I think Kamon Rucker will ultimately win ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Who is winning ACC Coach of the Year, Dalton?
I've got Mario Cristobal from Miami, and I know he was criticized a lot last year, but if they make the jump from a 7-6 team to a team that contends for the ACC title and a playoff spot, look, he's got a lot of big names that he's got to gel together on that team really, really quickly. And if he does it, they've got a boatload of talent. They've got everything, offense, defense. They're the one team. I think they're the most well-rounded team in the conference. If everything clicks, it's on Cristobal to make it click, but if he does, I think he's winning Coach of the Year.
I'm with it as well. I have Mario Cristobal winning it as well because I think Miami's the best team in the conference this year. I think they're best team. They did an unbelievable job in the transfer portal. They have an unreal offense with Cam Moore, Damian Martinez, both transferring in there. A great offensive line, a great receiving core, one of the best defensive lines in college football as well. I think Miami's, like I said, the most well-rounded team in the conference. Not really a true weakness or true glaring weakness like some other teams have in this conference. So I'm going with Mario Cristobal to win Coach of the Year and kind of silence a lot of the doubters that he had, or at least he has right now going into the season. Who is the sleeper team, Dalton? Who's the sleeper team to watch out for in the ACC right now? And why is it Syracuse?
I think – say again?
Why is it Syracuse?
It is not Syracuse, despite what you think is an extremely easy schedule for them, but nothing's ever easy at Syracuse. No, I actually really like your pick for this, so I went with something a little bit different. And this is another one where I think the schedule kind of favors them a little bit, and two guys that you mentioned as your players of the year, I think North Carolina has an opportunity to make some noise as long as they can protect Max Johnson. If you look at their schedule, the toughest games are probably at Florida State and then a home game at the end with NC State. The toughest out-of-conference game is at Minnesota, which I still think they should win. They beat them pretty good last year. North Carolina's schedule is really advantageous for them. They skip Clemson. They skip Miami. I don't remember if they play Louisville, but that's a really tight game if they do play Louisville. They, I think, have an opportunity. If they win all the games that they're supposed to get themselves in contention to be in the ACC title game, they'll have to win a tough game or two. I think at Florida State in the middle of their schedule sticks out to me. But if they can pass protect, Max Johnson's really, really good in a clean pocket, and he didn't have anywhere near the running game at Texas A&M that he does with Amarion Hampton now at North Carolina. I think they're a bit of a sleeper based on their schedule.
Yeah, the one I'm going with, Dawn, is actually a team that had a head coach will be interviewed very recently, Rhett Lashley. That is SMU, man. SMU, the new ACC, one of the new ACC teams this year, the only new Power 5 team or Power 4 team that we have this year as well. Last year, man, they were excellent. They were 11-3. They were one of only 4 teams in the country with a top 10 offense and defense in terms of PFF grading. The only other 3 were Michigan, Alabama, and Notre Dame. There is a question mark of how they're going to handle the jump to the Power 5 because last year they were 0-3 against Power 5 competition, and 2 of those losses were TCU and Boston College, who weren't really great teams either. But man, they bring back so much talent. In fact, 16 of their 20 most valuable players from last year are coming back to school, according to wins above average metric as well. So I'm a big fan of the SMU team, man. I think they could really be a true contender in the ACC, and I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on them because of what happened last year with the 4 new Big 12 teams in Houston and BYU and UCF and I'm blanking. UCF and who's the other one? Cincinnati. Of course.
Yeah.
I forgot the one in our own studios right now. But those 4 all had losing seasons after being really good group of 5 teams. And I think most people are expecting, okay, yeah, it'll be a similar type of struggle for SMU. I don't think it will be, man. I think SMU immediately is going to be one of the top teams in the ACC and was very close to me for Dalton being a top 25 team in college football as well. So I have SMU as my sleeper team in the ACC. But ultimately, Dalton, who is making the ACC championship game and who is winning the ACC title this year?
I think going into the season, the 2 best teams are pretty clear. It's Miami and Clemson, and it's a very hard title game for me to pick. There's a lot of different scenarios that could go down, but I'm actually going to take Clemson over Miami to retake the ACC throne. I think their defense is just spectacular. It might be a top 5 defense in college football with Peter Woods and Barrett Carter and guys like R.J. Mickens on the back end. They've got a good enough defense that could carry them all the way. They do need to get more out of Cade Klubnik than they did last year, but I trust Dabo Swinney. I trust their defense, and I think Miami they have something to prove, right? Especially in big games, especially Cam Ward in big games, and we're going to learn a lot about them early, as even their first game in the swamp at Florida. But I'm going to take Clemson over Miami. I think it's a razor-thin margin. I could see it the other way as well, but I think these are the 2 best teams in the conference.
So, Dalton, we actually had the same title game and winner for the Big Ten, same title game and winner for the SEC, same title game, but not the same winner here for the ACC. I have Miami over Clemson in it right now. Like I said before, I think Miami is the most complete team in that conference. I really like Clemson as well. They have an elite defense, but that offense does scare me. Whether or not Cade Klubnik can be the guy is a big question mark for me as well. But I think they're still going to be able to get there, but I think Miami's just too good this year. I think Miami's a top 15 team in the country, and I think they're ultimately going to win the ACC. All right, Dalton, how many playoff teams does the ACC send to the 12-team college football playoff this year?
This was a really, really hard one because I've got Notre Dame in, and then it leaves not a lot of spots for the ACC and the Big 12, but I went with 2. And it's probably obvious which 2 it is. I think those 2 teams are going to win enough games to get there before the title game. I went with 2 in the ACC, and it was one of the hardest decisions that I had making the playoff bracket.
So I'm kind of spoiling it here of who is making it, but I only have 1. I only think the conference champion is getting in. So I of course, have Miami making it in to the ACC for the college football playoff right now. But here is our ACC predictions. We both have Miami and Clemson in the title game, but I have Miami winning it. Dalton has Clemson winning it. Amarion Hampton is both of our picks for Offensive Player of the Year. I have Kamon Rucker, Amarion Hampton's teammate, for Defensive Player of the Year. Dalton won with Ashton Gelati. Coach of the Year, we both have Mario Cristobal. I have SMU as my sleeper. Dalton has North Carolina. And I have 1 team making the college football playoff from the ACC. Dalton has 2 teams. But let us know in the comments below what your ACC predictions are for the 2024 season, and be on the lookout for more predictions coming out very soon.